In this walkthrough, you connect the application's implementation to the interface and ensure all the error handling works.
You will review the error handlers generated by APIkit.
Review settings for the APIkit router and HTTP listener in the APIkit generated interface.
Connect the implementation to the interface and test the error handling behavior.
Modify implementation error scopes so they work with the APIkit generated interface. Go to Interface XML. Review the error handling section in MUA Flight's API main. Review the types of errors handled by each error handler scope. Navigate to the Transform Message Properties view for the first error handling scope. Review the expression that sets the payload. Use the Output drop-down menu to change the output to variable HTTP status. Review the expression that sets an HTTP status variable. You should see that for a bad request, the HTTP status variable is set to 400. Navigate to the Properties view for the APIkit router in MUA Flight's API main. Click the Edit button next to Router Configuration. Locate the HTTP status VAR name setting. You should see HTTP status. Click OK. Navigate to the Responses tab in the Properties view for the HTTP listener in MUA Flight's API main. Review the response body and status code. Review the error response body and status code. In Interface XML, locate the GET Flights flow. Review the default transformation in this flow. Delete the transform message component. Add a flow reference component to the flow. In the Flow Reference Properties view, set the flow name and display name to GetFlights. Return to Implementation XML and delete the GetFlights listener in GetFlights.
Save all the files to redeploy the application.
In Postman, send the same request. You should get a 400 for response with a no listener message. Add API to the URL and make a request again.
You should get the United Flights to PDX as before.
Change the code to F4. You should now get a 400 bad request response instead of your custom message.
Remove the code to make a request. You should now get your custom error message.
Add the airline and code PDX to make a request. You should now get a 200 response with the BSD request description in the error message.
Return to MUA Flight's API RAML and review the code.
You should see the code query parameter is not required, but it has allowed values enumerated. Return to Interface XML, add a breakpoint to the APIkit router in MUA Flight's API main, debug the project. In Postman, make another request. In the Mule debugger, watch the payload and variables and step through the application.
Step back to the APIkit router.
Review the exception, the payload, and the variables.
In Postman, change the code to FO and send request.
In the Mule debugger, step through the application.
The APIkit router should immediately throw an error.
Step again. You should see the error is handled by the APIkit bad request handler. Resume through the rest of the application. Remove the airline and code to make a request to API flights. You should get a 400 response with the custom message. Return to Implementation XML. Locate the error handler in the Get American Flights flow. Right-click it and select Go to XML. Change the on-error propagate start and end tags to on-error continue. Change the DOC name in the start tag to on-error continue.
Switch back to the message flow view. You should now see an on-error continue.
Return to Global XML. Review the types of error handler scopes. Right-click the USEC error handler and select Go to XML. Change the for on-error propagate start and end tags and DOC name to on-error continue. Switch back to the message flow view. You should now see both are on-error continue scopes. Add a set variable transformer to the WSC error handler. In the Set Variable Properties view, set the display name and name to HDSTAS. Set the value to 500.
Do the same steps for the next error handler.
Save files to redeploy the project, and in Postman, send the same request. In the Mule debugger, step through the application.
The application now does not return to the APIkit router. Return to Postman. You should now get a 200 response with the no flights to PDX message. Change the airline to Delta and send another request. You should now get the 50 response with the data unavailable message.
See you on the next session.